Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you guys a 2 versus 2 on Cheux, and in this one I'm going to be playing with the brand new 1st SS-Panzer division, and I'm joined by Haymaker, who's playing the 9th Panzer. So the First Blood DLC update has arrived. It's a free DLC, so if you own Steel Division and haven't played for a while, make sure you check out the update and get back online. And there's 2 new divisions waiting for you: the 1st SS-Panzer on the Axis side and the big red one, or 1st Infantry, on the US side. So make sure you go check those out. Today I'm going to be sort of showing off the 1st SS and I guess an interesting sort of strategy that I came up with and was just toying around with the division, but also just some general gameplay and comments going alongside that. Now, one thing that is awesome is obviously Steel Division is now a year old. This update is called First Blood. It's to do with it being an anniversary update. And since the game came out, I've made over 450 Steel Division videos. So hopefully you guys have been enjoying those. And we're going to carry on into the 2nd year of Steel Division's life cycle, going strong, especially with all of the tournament stuff going on right now. So that's absolutely awesome. And hopefully you guys, again, jump back onto the game, check out the new divisions and get involved. So let's have a little talk about what we had planned here today. So on this left side, you can see that I am deploying. There's some really interesting units in the 1st SS. Starting off with the Panzerjäger Stug 3Fs. Now these are Stugs, and they're similar obviously to Stugs that we've had before, but they come in the AT tab. And in this case, they cost 110 points apiece. So I decided to opt for a triple Stug strategy. And considering I'd never played the division at this point before, other than in testing, I wasn't aware of how this would go, honestly. It was a complete stab in the dark. It could go wrong in so many ways. Obviously, none of these tanks have turrets. They're all self-propelled, so that means they get flanked very easily. They are just in general relatively weak to most AT guns, since they only have 8 front armor. So this was definitely a huge risk that I was taking, but something that I wanted to maybe see worked, and might have been a strategy that I could have seen happening in 1v1. So I just wanted to try it out to see if it could be effective. Now, what allows me to do this is the fact that the 1st SS-Panzer does have quite affordable infantry, in a sense that you have the SS Volksdeutsche, which have sort of 2 MGs. They're basically exactly the same as Panzergrenz, except from they are disheartened. And because they're disheartened, they cost less. So you get basically what is a 25-point Panzergrenz squad that gets pinned down a little quicker than usual. And that just allows you to have overwhelming infantry availability of high quality. And that is definitely something that the 1st SS sort of does well at doing. So on this left side, I've just got a couple of SS Volksdeutsche, followed up by a 2-star MG42. Those guys are absolutely awesome. I actually have 2 cards, I think, of MG42s in Phase A, which is not something that I do often, but since they're 2-star, they can absolutely rip to shreds infantry with their accuracy at range, and it really allows you to just sort of pin down areas and stop the movement of infantry in areas as well. So that's going to be 3 units moving to this town. On the right of those, the triple Stug start with the SPW 222 and the Recon. And then just for the mid, I've got some SS Volksdeutsche again to just capture one of these buildings and hopefully do the job. Meanwhile, on the right side, Haymaker is starting with a double Marder 3 strategy. Obviously, this is Cheux. It's pretty opened up map. 9th Panzer, very versatile division, good at close range, good at long range. So the Marder's going to be coming into play there. So I'd say that the big red one, they actually have a lot more new unique units to look at. But in this case, I think both divisions in this DLC exhibit a very interesting playstyle. They lack recon, both of them do, and that forces you to sort of rely more on infantry play. And in the case of the big red one, more on airplay, which is something that you're kind of forced into, and I think can be exploited in like a 1v1, but in a team game will definitely be very interesting. But let's focus on the first SS-Panzer. So I'm zooming forwards with this 222, just trying to get the recon into a position where I can possibly spot AT guns and then try and work around that with the Stugs, because this is a really risky start here. Now the other thing I'm aware of is that our opponents are playing the big red one and the first Panzer, so they have some pretty significant infantry, and you'll see here that my SS Volksdeutsche, they come up against a bunch of the first infantry, and they really don't do very well. If I go to the neutral perspective, we can see these assault teams here, and they are 12-man squads with a flamethrower and 7 HE at 200 meter range, which is absolutely nuts. So really, really strong. But meanwhile, I'm just kind of going in blind to the mid here, whilst my infantry gets absolutely dismantled in the town. So I'm really starting to rely on these triple Stug threat. And currently Aufklärer, yeah, spotting a lot of infantry. Can't afford to lose them though, otherwise it would leave my Stugs blind. So I'm playing around this Aufklärer quite heavily. The 222 also very important for pinning down and finishing off a lot of this infantry. Stug 3 is going to try and surrender this assault MG, whilst the 222 goes for the surrender onto that assault MG. So just trying to get rid of both of those. Then I'm going to be looking for the surrender onto these two Streltsy squads. So you can see the Stug here just going to start fast moving towards them. 222 has made some ground. Cromwell 6 is going to be engaging that. But if I can get this Stug into line of sight, then maybe I can find a kill there. Now what was good about this 222 is it did reveal the positioning of this 6-pounder, so already going to start firing upon that with the Stug 3. Very important that I do that straight away. If that second shot from the 6-pounder there had actually hit my Stug, I would have been in a very bad position. Same with that shot. But fortunately, I was lucky enough to pin it down. And that sort of removes the AT threat that would otherwise be able to take me out quite convincingly. So I've completely lost the left side town. There is a +1 in favour of our opponents. This triple Stug strategy, yes, it's killed off a lot of infantry in the mid, but I'm yet to really capitalise. So now I'm looking for the kill onto the Cromwell 6. I do manage to get transmission damage there. I'm also, of course, very worried about this 6-pounder, which has currently fallen back. So I'm just going to try and get as close as I can up in its face, allow the MGs to sort of be in range if it reveals itself. Meanwhile, my 222 is just falling back through enemy territory. My Volksdeutsche is still being absolutely annihilated. Stug finally finishes off the Cromwell 6. And the 222, I believe, gets taken out by a Panzerfaust. Or not, it wouldn't have been a Panzerfaust, probably a bazooka on the side of the 1st Infantry. So you can see there's a lot of aircraft in the sky right now. The 1st Infantry and 1st Panzer, they have a lot of reliance on the Air Force, right? Of course, the Hurricanes we're used to with the 1st Panzer, but on the same vein, the 1st Infantry really rely on like P-38s, and honestly, you can sometimes see a lot of them if you're playing against players that try and utilize those. Now, I'm pretty lucky here that the 6-pounder actually bounces, and alongside the main gun, the machine gun manages to finish that off. Now I'm just trying to look for the kill onto the carrier there, and well, I found myself quite a lot of ground in the end, so that worked out in my favour. There is now an M4DD on the way from the 1st Infantry. My Stug 3 is turning round to face that. I do come under fire from one shot there. Stug 3 with the 14 AP versus the 10 armour. Not going to be able to do the job in the front, but a side shot from the Stug 3 here, as that M4 readjusts, does find the kill. That was pretty nice. Do unfortunately lose my Volksdeutsche here for free, which was not a good move. Brought in some more recon though, to maybe try and accompany these Stug 3s a little more, but at the moment these guys in a pretty terrible position. I mentioned it at the start, them being self-propelled does leave them out in the open. They're just absolutely useless. So a Hurricane Mark IV is currently falling back one of my Stugs. The Honey's going to be coming around the M501, sorry, it's going to be coming around the tree line to try and take that out. This Stug is under fire by the AT gun, does get crew wounded and then obviously killed off. And so I'm all of a sudden left with one Stug 3 that on its own is just not really going to be doing very much. I also try and go for a play here with the VulcanHDGers into the town, but the assault MG or the assault team does manage to flamethrower my own 251-16 to death. So my VulcanHDG are getting a taste of its own medicine there. This VulcanHDG comes through, going to get hit by the bazooka team, and well, that goes down as well. Also, we're going to have my unit there surrendered, which is my 222. Meanwhile, in the mid, my Panzerjäger Stug 3Fs are getting absolutely annihilated. And yeah, it went from relatively good to very bad very quickly in this game, at least on my side of things. Thankfully, Haymaker is doing relatively well on his side of the map with his 9th Panzer right now. Now this is where the sort of first SS-Panzer really surprised me. Moving into Phase B in 3 minutes, the 130 points per minute is actually really, really nice. I didn't think it would be like as good as say like the 2nd Panzer with 150 income per minute, but it was still very, very good, especially considering that income remained moving into Phase C. But yeah, my Stug going to be going down there. Still, of course, 2-3 minutes till Phase B, so I am in a pretty tough spot, but fortunately, since I pushed so far up, I have got some SS Volksdeutsche in a pretty nice position. It has allowed Haymaker to sort of solidify some of this ground as well and be annoying with his Panzer 1s. So I think there's enough of like a buffer here of ground that's going to stop them from making the ground back too quickly. And with my infantry being so cheap, the SS Volksdeutsche, they are able to sort of just pick up and sit in some of these buildings in order to prevent the front line from folding. I also bring in the 257 here. That's going to try and help me clean up some AT guns for when I want to make a counter push in the later phases. The other thing that I'm sort of doing at this point is building up a defense around the town rather than trying to keep pushing into it and just getting stuff killed. I'm just going to sit outside of it with a couple of MG42s. If the first infantry player wants to push out of the town, then he's going to have to run into those, and that's going to be very difficult for him to deal with without an M4. And I've already killed one of the M4s, so it's unlikely he's going to have another one for a little while. Now they do have the income to sort of bring that in, quite another one in quite quickly, because obviously 100 income per minute is very significant in Phase A. But yeah, I was kind of just hoping that he didn't bring in like a tank on this left side and broke all the way through, because that would have been really, really bad. And anyway, 257 has come up, and that's going to be engaging this M1 gun. And I'm basically on damage control. The initial 3 Stug push did kind of work, but a lack of recon really sort of caused it to fall apart. If I could have seen that AT gun coming in on the left, for example, I could have played around that, but I just didn't see it coming. And it's kind of my bad for maybe not having the Alcala unload a bit further up. But just in general, like in Phase A, I think these 2 Alcala are the only 2 recon infantry that I have access to for the entirety of Phase A. Then in Phase B, I think I have 2 more Spätrupp, and in Phase C, another 2 more. So you are limited throughout the entire game, and I think keeping your recon where you want to push is definitely very important. In this case, I tried to, but it still wasn't really enough. Anyway, the M1 gun there coming under a lot of fire. These 2-star mortars are actually very effective indeed, especially for killing off AT guns and pinning down infantry quickly. I do bring in an IG-18 to this left side. One thing that's absolutely fantastic about this division is the IG-18s come in 251s. How gorgeous is that? So just getting an IG-18 there as well, again, just to sort of solidify that defense outside of the town so that none of the infantry can continue to advance, whilst I continue to sort of try and make plays in the mid. Now, one thing I did manage to do, as this M5A1 came around to try and kill off Haymaker's Panzer 1, I ambushed it with the Panzerfaust from the Volksdeutsche, and my 257 here does finally get the kill onto the M1 gun. So we're kind of just sitting pretty at the moment, hoping that now that phase B has arrived, I can do something more significant. I'm going to be bringing up an AT gun first of all. The great thing is that I have both, well, all of the Pak 40s that are available in phase B, and one of them is 2-star. So I'm going to be bringing that in first. The reason for that is because it can help me take out AT guns like enemy 6-pounders and M1 guns. So that's what I'm going to be looking to do with the Pak 40 with the help of the recon. The other thing is the Pak 40 provides a great basis for pushing off with a Panzer 4, for example, because if they bring in anything to counter the Panzer 4, the Pak 40 can then sort of trade at 1,200 meter range from behind the Panzer 4, and that is something that you can definitely take advantage of if the opponent is unaware. The other thing to consider is what you're actually going to come up against. So I know that the 1st Panzer is playing around this right side against Haymaker, and he's not doing very well, so he's likely to probably put his Firefly over there, right, because he wants to try and start countering those Marders that are doing so much work. So I'm not likely to see a 1,200 meter range tank, since the 1st Infantry has only 1,000 meter range tanks at their disposal. They have a lot of M4A1s. So that's something that I can really take advantage of again with this Pak 40, and why I chose it moving through this game. So the SS Volksdeutsche are showing their strengths here in this heavy cover with their 2 MG42s are able to pin a lot of this infantry. Now, I do have to be a little bit careful here because the assault breaches are trying to get close with their smoke grenades to sort of force my Volksdeutsche out. Also want to make sure that my Aufklärer don't get killed by the command infantry pushing up. So just going to do a runner with both of those units. Try and allow the Pak 40 and this half-track to get involved and pin down these units from a distance. Because then if I can pin down these forces, I can probably just go for a double surrender, right? Especially if the command is pinned. So with my Panzer 4H coming up, with my 257 on target, I do manage to pin both the assault breaches and the assault leader. And now my half-track's just going to go for a quick surrender there. So that's a couple of really nice units that I can just quickly clean up. And that's just a matter of having all of the correct fire support units. So job done there. Pak 40 is in a pretty nice position to cover the advance of the Panzer 4. Got the 257 as well if I need it. And of course the half-tracks. Meanwhile, just solidifying this left side, you can see that I've got the Volksdeutsche and the Pioneer Führer on return 5. Brought up some recon now as well, just to make sure that enemy recon is not coming my way. But that's another thing that the 1st Infantry lacks, so I'm not too concerned about it. I just want to make sure that I can see anything that does try and push towards me, and therefore I have targets for the IG-18 and the MG-42s. But at the moment, I mean, territory is really going well in our favour. Having that initial push into the mid seemed to do quite a lot of damage and give us a lot of ground, and Haymaker's kind of taken advantage of that in the mid here with the Panzer 1s, whilst also doing a significant amount of damage to the 1st Panzer players. So Haymaker's done a fantastic job there. My Aufklärer trying to move up here. One thing that I was trying to do was run ahead with the Volksdeutsche, and then wherever they'd gone, sort of follow up with the Aufklärer. So that's what you can see me doing here. Just that Volksdeutsche originally went to this tree line, I followed up with the Aufklärer. Now this one's going to be going to here. If that's clear, I can move the Aufklärer up again. Got to keep my recon alive. That's probably one of the most important things that I sort of realized with this division. If your recon dies and you're left blind, you're just in so much trouble. But thankfully, both of my Aufklärer from phase A are still alive. I've got the Spätruppen on the left, and that's the way you kind of want to keep it moving forwards. So I've got the Panzer 4, it's supported by the Pak 40 like I mentioned. Any 1000 meter range engagement will quickly turn in my favor due to the Pak 40 backing things up. M3A1 just looking to get killed there. Going to be taking that out. New Panzer 4 sorry, on the way. With 130 income, being able to bring in one of these Panzer 4s every minute is actually really, really nice. So you can play around them quite significantly in Phase B. And the beauty of the Panzer 4H is it, of course, has the better aim time than a Panzer 4J. And allows you to sort of take on Shermans more effectively. Now the other thing I'm doing here is bringing up the Flampanzer. That's again just more of a defensive thing this time around. I don't want to suicide another 2 Flampanzers into the town. That was, you know, less than ideal. It didn't really work out very well, especially since my opponent did opt to have the bazooka teams. But what you can see has happened is I've just kind of stuck a wall in front of the town and I'm just going round it. Why should I ever fight into the elite infantry here? There is just absolutely no point. So just going to avoid it entirely. And I think this is something that other players don't really do enough. Like, why waste time and effort trying to push through the town when you have the troops and support units to push around the town? It can leave you quite vulnerable, especially if, like, say the right side wasn't going so well for us. I could end up getting like double teamed on both sides of the salient, but in this case it's fine. Here you can see I'm just waiting for the return fire. I'm going to turn that off just as the assault bazookas get like out in the open, and that's going to allow me to do a nice amount of damage onto the assault bazookas and just sort of keep them pinned in the open there. The rest of my units are moving up, getting my half track to go help out that engagement. 257's in the picture, bringing up some AA now as well, just to support the Panzer 4Hs and make sure they don't get killed. It's going to get rid of the recon here for the 1st Infantry. And on the most part, they are relying on that A20C there. So just playing around that by bringing in the 2 AA pieces. Of course, just necessary anyway. And yeah, +2. Victory in 11 minutes. Now, my opponent does bring in the M5 gun here. It's going to be hitting the Panzer 4H. And I'm just going to sort of be reversing that behind the tree line, get it out of range. Whilst that's happening, I'm just going to move forward to 257. Kind of utilise the fact that it will be out of direct line of sight. I'm just going to be trying to fire in front of it, similar to what you would do with like a Cromwell 6, because the 257 is limited to the 1000 meter range. And one thing that does happen here is the P-38 Lightning comes in with the bombs and does bomb out my Pak 40, leaves it on 1 health. What that tells me is there is some recon somewhere nearby here, because it'd be unlikely that it could see it otherwise. So I've got to try and find that if I can. But in the meantime, just bringing up some more infantry. I've got some command on the way as well. Command is something that is lacking in this division in general, but fortunately you kind of make up for it with most of your units being high veterancy. But with my mortar being fired towards the M5 gun, I kind of take for granted that my mortar has pinned down the M5 gun, so I'm just going to be kind of charging towards that with the half track here. Unfortunately, the M7DD is a thing, and that is going to be force falling back my 251. Hurricane Mark 4 comes in, cleans up the my Pak 40. Also strafes one of my 257s quite a bit. But here, Panzer 4H has moved up, going to be hitting the M7DD. I'm also now investing in this Focke-Wulf 190, or 2 Focke-Wulf 190s at this point, just to try and gain back some air dominance here, and also allows me to strafe any AT guns that get in my way. So in this case, the M5 gun showing itself once again is going to be going for the shot onto my Pak 40. It takes a while to aim since I unload the Pak 40 and the 251 that gets hidden due to lack of recon. And, well, the Focke-Wulf 190s certainly do their job, that's for sure. See the 2 P-38 Lightnings come in as response. I, of course, know that I have 2 SDKF Z72s here, and my opponent does as well. So he's not going to be falling for that just yet. But with the M7 dead, with the M5 gun dead, another bunch of ground is gained. And considering like how badly my Phase A went, losing all those Stugs like 3 minutes before Phase B, coming back this strong in Phase B was actually a real surprise to me. And I think it mainly comes down to the fact that I have really affordable infantry that was able to hold the line regardless of how badly I did. And then aside from that, in Phase B, when it came around, I had a lot of units that complemented the amount of income I had. So the Panzer IV-H, the Pak-40s, they're all very affordable. Now with my Focke-Wulf 190s there cleaning up that 6-pounder as well, as it's spotted by the Aufklärer, again you can see it's just, this Aufklärer has just slowly followed the path of the Volksdeutsche. My opponent's sort of forced to try and push out the town, but my defense is just too strong here now. The MG42s, I've got the IG-18, I've got the Flandpanzer of course, and yeah, just do so much damage. That's a 2-star MG, just absolutely annihilating those assault breaches there. These guys trying to push forwards as well. Just no ground to be made, completely surrounding the town. And that is, yeah, just leaving so much stuff here. Look at that. That you can't use. This is one weakness of the first infantry in general, is that they rely quite a lot on their infantry. And if they can't get their infantry into decent positions, like the whole way across, then they're going to, you know, leave me a nice breach here to push through and kind of just surround the town. And I'm just ignoring all of this. I know it's there. I'm just going to leave it be. Meanwhile, you know, take advantage of the points he hasn't spent beyond that. And I mean, it's just a prime example of just ignoring the town and it really working out. So yeah, that's pretty much that. More reinforcements are arriving now from the 1st Panzer player, trying to help out his teammate, the Firefly, now arriving. My Pak-40 is in a decent position here though to cover the retreat of this Panzer IV, and well, with the map being so far in my own and Haymaker's favour, the Winged Hussar, the 1st Panzer player, is going to surrender. There's only 3 minutes and 20 seconds left till victory for us anyway. And soon after, the 1st Infantry player surrenders as well. And that's pretty much game. So I found this game actually really, really interesting in a sense that, like, yes, it was quite a convincing victory, but it didn't exactly come out of nowhere. Well, it did kind of come out of nowhere, but in a sense that I had tried this absolutely ludicrous strategy. By the way, nobody ever try the triple Stug strategy again, by the way. It's kind of useless. But one thing I did find is how well I recovered because of the, again, cost-efficient infantry, cost-efficient units for the amount of income you've got coming in. And that was just something that was very surprising, and I think is going to make this division very, very strong, actually. It does, of course, lack recon, but what it lacks in recon, it makes up for in other areas. And that's something that this division especially does well, that probably the 1st Infantry does not. So this is definitely a very strong division that I think we're going to see a lot of play of. So in the end, 1,017 kills and 780 losses. Of course, I did lose quite a few of my units. Haymaker there, though, with significantly more kills, similar losses. But in the end, the 1st Panzer player couldn't hold him back. In terms of kills, the Panzerjäger Stugs actually did kind of pay themselves off at the start. One of them cleaning up the Cromwell 6, one killed the M4DD, the other one killed the 6-pounder and the Universal Carrier. So it wasn't like they didn't do anything, right? They still did a lot of damage, but as soon as those Panzerjägers went down, it left me in a very sort of tense position whereby I kind of felt like I was going to get pushed back upon. But considering how much ground I'd made, I didn't really lose too much because of it. Panzer IV-H's came in, they cleaned up a few units here and there. Pak-40 killed off the enemy M5 gun. And these Focke-Wulf 190s are just really, really nice at 2-star. You can get one in Phase A and you can get one in Phase B. And I think both of them are very necessary for dominating the air, especially with like the significant AA that you can bring in. You can get 2-star Gepards, you didn't see them in this game. But those can be really, really strong, like in mass, in the late game. In terms of losses, well, the M4 cleaned up the 222. I lost the Flandpanzers in the town. The Panzerjäger Stugs got taken out by the M1 gun, which, yeah, cleaned those up. But after that, I sort of recovered very well, and you can see that there was a limited amount of losses after the initial losses. And that's where I'm going to leave it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It's a quick look really at some gameplay of the new first SS-Panzer. Hopefully you guys are thinking of jumping back into Steel Division and trying out these new divisions, which are absolutely free. So make sure you do that. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.